So tell us, Sam, about your foray into Automotive Traveler magazine.
I've been writing a little bit here and there, just on the side, for a bunch of different magazines. My first writing was for a magazine called GM High Tech Performance, where they wanted me to document how this gentleman had swapped engines from a Corvette LT4 into a Camaro, and I worked for Chilton, so of course I know how to do that. I didn't, but I worked my way through the story and came up with a story on how he did this. But that was my first article. I made articles for Auto Body Repair News, where I talked about how to do repairs on Audi A8s. The aluminum body structure on Audi A8 was a fantastic learning experience from the mechanics who did that kind of work. And I met a bunch of other people who worked for different magazines, and through the years, they would ask me to write something here or there. Well, I met a gentleman, Rich Truesdale, who writes for a bunch of different magazines, but he had just started his own publication called Automotive Traveler. And Automotive Traveler was great because it combined the cars and the driving, where you're going and how to get there, and the car you're driving in. Where normally a magazine either does one or the other. We went here, or we drove this. Well, this allowed us to combine both the tales into one. And Richard just loved that I could, at the drop of a hat, write an article for him, because a lot of their early publications were online exclusively before they actually had a publication. And he had a series where he said, not found on eBay. He would find something for sale somewhere and then write an article about that thing for sale. But because of the timeliness of it, you needed to put it up right away. And he found out that Honda was selling their R&D track out in the West, out in California, I think it was. And he needed an article now. And I came home from work, and he called me up. I'm like, okay. And I fired off an article in about an hour and sent it back to him. And so it was between the time he told me about it at 5 o'clock, it was online at 10 o'clock. So it was
wow.
Real quick, the turnaround time for him. And I like doing those things occasionally. It's a lot of work if you have to do it all the time. But Automotive Traveler allowed me to do a lot of different articles where I got to tour things. We did a wine tour. We live in rural eastern Pennsylvania, and there's a lot of wineries in this general area. So I grabbed my wife. We grabbed another couple. We got in a minivan, and we drove all the way across the county and went to all the wineries. So we got to taste wines from all over the place, and I wrote a nice article on that one. And that led me to doing a beer tasting article where we drove on to different mini microbreweries and such. And I don't have the taste for beer. I wish I did, because there are some great stories that my friends tell me about. Oh, this beer has this flavor and this taste, and it's lost on me. It's beer.
Does nothing, right?
Nothing at all. So I grabbed my two closest beer-loving friends, and we got into an Infiniti QX80, and we drove across the state and went to Yuengling, and we went to Trogs, and then we went to a beer festival all in one day. And it was fantastic, because by the end of the day, my friends were sauced, and I had to babysit them on the way home. But we had a great day, giving a full tour of a microbrewery of Trogs outside of Hershey, and Yuengling, which is the oldest beer manufacturer in the United States. It was a great learning experience on how they make beer and who makes it around our area.
Well, what a perfect designated driver, the guy who doesn't care about beer while they're doing a beer tour. That's perfect. I'm sure your friends were grateful.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.